Well, hey y'all. Happy Monday. Well, welcome back. So, I'm here in my little greenhouse. I'm actually going to move it. I thought that this was I thought it could be a good spot for it, but I think that ultimately, because the pool deck holds a lot of cold, or in the summer it holds a lot of heat. I just don't feel like it's getting as warm in here as I'd like it to. Now it's over here. It's perfect for cutting down the wind. But I think that moving it over there where my compost bin, it will enable it to get a lot warmer, and it will help things along here in the greenhouse. Now, as I sit here, I can feel the sun on my back and, be fooled by that. But I've been kind of monitoring the direction of the sun and the temperatures, because I did actually, you'll be proud of me because I'm definitely proud of myself. I did get some seedlings planted last week, and the bulk of what I got planted was a lot of tomatoes and obviously, and well, I got stuff planted that I want to be able to put out in February. Now, a couple of you have remarked in the comments about, kind of what's coming up, what I'm thinking about planting. And so I wanted to share with you kind of my plan, basically what I've planted so far, and also what I'm planning on planting, and also what we can plant. I want to chat with you at the end about 3 words that I think can help us reflect a little bit about our spring garden. Okay, so I just got this tray turned around because first of all, the things that we can look at starting to come into our spring planting now, and here in Arizona, our spring planting is actually going to launch on February 15th. Now, there's some things that we might still have to be a little watchful for as we round the corners, but so far, looking at the weather, February is going to be pretty great, and we're just going to kind of miss all of those little late season frost that we should have. So I don't think it's going to be as precarious as it was like last year. Like last year, it took a little while for it to finally get really warm and get into a spring or summer, if you will. So with that being said, we're going to be able to bring in basil. Basil loves the summer, loves the warm weather. So all of your basil varieties that you like, you could actually get them going now by seeds, either indoors or outdoors. And they're going to be real happy to pop out for you outside on February 15th. So you could just plant those outside on February 15th if you wanted to. The next thing that we're going to have on that list are beans. Now, beans are really going to come in for us a little bit more into March. And the beans I'm talking about are going to be like beans that have black eyes, and which I think is different than black-eyed peas. Then like snap green beans, and so green beans, and then pinto beans and soybeans and yard long beans. Now, I did last week start a couple of beans in my little peat cups. I've read things that said that beans don't really like to be transplanted, much like their friend corn. But beans, so I feel okay with pre-planting them now because they are in the peat cups. So the peat cups, if I wanted to, I could plant directly into, or I could just move away that cup and, cross my fingers and hope for the best. But then after beans, does come in corn. So corn we can start planting on February 15th, and that's the gamut of corn. So if it's sweet corn, popping corn, corn for cornmeal, all of those corn varieties are going to come into play. Now, corn is another one of those. It's funny. You can buy corn as a transplant at Summer Winds, at all the different places that you can buy transplants. But really, corn prefers to start as its own, and it likes to start from seed. Now, I will recommend that when you plant corn is one of those plants that has to have a companion. So you have to plant corn in blocks of at least two. So, and blocks is kind of elemental for us too, because most of us don't have, that big yard or a field to plant corn in. So you're not going to be doing those long rows. But what will benefit you is planting them close together so that you can increase your opportunities for pollination, and helping your corn along will also be a good thing for you. So pay attention and get your corn out if that's something that you're interested in. And I think it would do better to get that going earlier in this season to reap the rewards of the corn before it gets super, super hot. Now, the next things that come into our list are cucumbers, like your standard cucumbers, as well as Armenian cucumbers. So those are some of the things that I planted as well. Also, eggplant is going to be continuing into that patch of the season. February 15th is also going to bring in the beginning of our melon season. So that's going to be cantaloupe, honeydew, as well as watermelon. So I don't have any melons started just yet, but I'm definitely going to get at least watermelons going, because I haven't had that much success with watermelons. I've had so success with cantaloupe. I'm a little hesitant to get cantaloupe going too quickly, just because it seems to want to start to go into a vine pretty quick. But as things get closer to March, I might go ahead and start some cantaloupe as well. Then the 1st of February, or February 15th, is also going to give us our opportunity to start going with our summer squashes. Some of my calendars point to March being the time to kind of start the winter squashes. I'm of the mind of getting them all just started on February 15th, because they all take a long time to get going. So pumpkins are going to come up after, kind of along with those. So pumpkins I also come along in March, but if you're like me, I've got some pumpkins over there that I'm going to probably put out on February 15th as well. Now, there's also peppers that we'll be able to do through transplant. So that's why now is a good time if you want to grow your own peppers. Get your seeds for peppers going either in a little faux greenhouse, a real greenhouse, some type of covered situation outside or inside. You could definitely, when I say covered situation outside, you could easily use something like a water bottle turned upside down, or when I use the AJ's cups, put some little holes in there so there's a little bit of vent. But there's a lot of things that could act as like a covering for your seedlings that you might want to get going. So if you don't have the space inside and you don't want to spend the time or the money, see, right now I've got this whole indoor setup going, but I'm going to make good use of it. But a part of me is kind of kicking myself in the tail, because if I would have ever dreamed that they would get me a greenhouse, I don't know if I would have made all that investment in there. So I just want you to know that there's a lot of flexibility in getting some things going in your garden without having a greenhouse or an indoor grow setup. Now, March is also going to give us an opportunity to start our okra. Starting okra any sooner, it's just not going to be happy. It loves the heat. So March, you can plant okra almost through June, because it will be fine all the way through until about November. I've got a video out there where I like to freeze mine. Like, I'll put them in an ice tray, the okra seed in an ice tray, and fill it up with water. I've got a video somewhere in the playlist about that. That's been beneficial to me. Also, soaking okra seeds is a good idea, or scratching the surface of the seed a little bit. It's just one that can be just kind of about wanting to germinate sometimes. So if you've had challenges in the past with okra germinating, maybe freeze it into an ice cube so it has that low, slow, leaking kind of wetness of the ice cube once you plant it, or soak it into some water overnight. And that goes for your beans too. It helps if beans soak a little bit. Also, I want to bring up that sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes, you're going to want to start putting those out March 15th. And I would definitely say that the earlier the better. You can plant them through July 15th. But I would say plant them somewhere that gets some shade, because even though they're supposed to be full sun, in my experience, they don't really like that much sun. But I would say the earlier the better you get them out, so they don't have to suffer so much in the heat. So if you're going to do those by slips, then now would be the time for you to get a sweet potato or two. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. And I've got videos about that too. You can plant a sweet potato itself in dirt, and it will just create its own slips. You could set one atop a glass with some whatever you have, toothpicks, or you could even probably use skewers or broken chopsticks to keep it kind of balanced on the cup. Slips will start to grow off of that, and you can cut it in half and do it like that. So there's a lot of different ways to get your own sweet potato slips for just the cost of a sweet potato. So try to go for an organic sweet potato, but if your budget in your life limits you to what is on the shelf, then get what is on the shelf, clean it really good, and pray over it. Pray over it. So those are the things that we have coming along. I touched on peppers. Also, obviously, in February 15th is when we're going to start putting our transplants of tomatoes out. And for a month or about a month or so, you'll still be able to plant tomatillos from seed. So in here, I did start some tomatillos from seed just because I've never had any luck with growing my own tomatillos. Now, those tomatillos that went so crazy out there, I bought those from Summer Winds, but I've never successfully grown any of my own, so fingers crossed on that. Carrots and radish, there's a couple of things that are gonna seem like they go on forever. So from seed we can plant carrots and radish through the end of April, but most of the other things that we are getting to continue to plant, like what you can plant in February, is going to be kind of a wonky calendar, because there's going to be a couple of last chance things that we can plant, and then a lot of these things. So even though this is kind of a preemptive what you can plant in February, it's a little bit more what you might want to plan for, and what I'm planning for. So more than anything, think of it like that, because otherwise when we get to what you can plant in February, it's going to seem a little odd, because we've got those two seasons kind of passing away from each other. Now, the final thing I want to chat with you about are 3 words that a favorite friend of mine, who is through her life become a spiritual coach, 3 words that she encouraged us to think about in our spiritual lives that I think that would be really fun and helpful to think about in our garden life are more, better, and different. So for me right now, as I go into this next season, and really all the time, I'm constantly thinking about what I could have done, what I should have done, etc. So when I think about more, I think what should I do more of in my garden this year? And so for me right now, I'm going to have to think a little bit about what I could do more. Maybe just being more vigilant about getting my plants out on time, which I'm really trying hard to do. But for you, more might be being more faithful to a fertilizing schedule, being more consistent with your watering, being more consistent with getting the appropriate plants out at the appropriate time. So then when we think about better, It's like, what can I or what should I do better next time? And so that makes me think about in the garden about remembering, like me, that there's always, always opportunity for education. So if that this season means reading some new books about gardening in the low desert, watching more videos, or even taking some online classes, those are all things that I think that we could do to be better. Because that's my number one thing, is always improve, improve, be better. Look at what I did, and what could I do differently. And then lastly is different. So what can I or what should I do differently? So for me, I definitely am gonna do differently than I did last year, with just getting some compost from a local supplier, throwing it in a bag, and hoping for the best. So this year, I'm going to make sure that all those bags have been refortified, that all of my bags have got good quality soil in them. That's definitely something I'm going to do differently. And for you, differently, again, might mean just getting your plants out on time. It might be changing up the way that you water, or what you're actually planting into. So I feel really good. I'm going to get some more straw bales. I feel really good about planting in those. I feel really good about planting in my beds. And now that I've got quality soil in the bags, I feel really good about planting in those. So those are just some food for thought. What could you do more of? What could you do better this season? And what perhaps could you do differently? And if it should help you outside of your garden, then maybe think about how those three words could also apply to helping you have a better, fuller life. So I hope that this has been helpful to you. I hope that you are inspired to get something growing. Now, just because that's the long list, if you're new to this, just pick your favorite thing and zero in on that, and get a grow bag or two and dump some kind of soil in it and get a seed planted and see how that grows you too. Well, thanks so much for tuning in whenever you get a chance. I hope you have the best day ever, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon. Bye.